Hello everyone and welcome to ITHICS. I am Connor Bromley. I have a lot of sun on my face, but there's nothing I can do about it, so you'll have to deal with me being a very shiny bald man today. I'm joined as well by Taff, as always, and we jumped on Saturday evening, and talked about Sunderland's win against Bournemouth, but we're going to go a little bit more in depth today. But before we get going, Taff, I have the question of the week. And the question of the week this week, I think you might need a little bit of time on. So I'm going to ask you it now, and maybe you give me the answer at the end. So the question is, what is the best opposition goal scored at the Stadium Light? Because obviously Tyler Adams yesterday has put himself in the reckoning for best goal at the Stadium Light for an opposing player. And if I'm just going to throw a couple of ones just to get the memory going for you. I'll throw in James Beattie scored a ridiculous goal at the Stadium Light in about 2000. Matty Taylor scored a nuts goal for Portsmouth in 2005-06. I also remember Imran Loser for Watford last season. Scored an absolutely stunning goal. So I don't have an answer for this, and I think I would be interested to know what people in the comments think. I know it's kind of a negative, but we won yesterday, so who cares? So yeah, everyone in the comments let me know what the best opposition goal scored at the Stadium Light is, and then at the end I'm going to get a definitive answer from you, and I'll give a definitive answer as well. And yeah, so we win yesterday, which is fun. I'm going to just quickly share something before.
You must have been a little upset.
You what, sorry?
You must have been a little upset that we didn't win with 5 at the back.
Well, we technically did win with 5 at the back.
Yeah.
Technically, we actually did win the game with 5 at the back.
At the end, yes. Yeah. You pleased about that then?
No, I was very much an advocate of going back to the 4 for this game.
Yes, I know. I'm just trying to wind you up.
There was a comment yesterday on the live stream which had said, when I saw the team, I thought it was Connor's team. It actually wasn't my team. I was one player out. I had Bromley starting up front.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, right, I'm going to share this image. So there we are. What do you notice about this image here? You just sent me this before, so
I did. We haven't played anybody yet, I think, because we've only played 6 of that top 10, and that counts as nobody, I think. And we're 4th in that list. You can't play yourselves, so we've played even more.
Also, we haven't lost against any of those teams either.
No.
No, because we drew with Arsenal, we beat Chelsea, we drew with Villa, we drew with Palace, we beat Brentford, we've beaten Bournemouth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what else to say. We must have. What's the next step on the line? We had an easy start. We haven't played any. We played these teams at the right time, I think. Yeah, Arsenal were top. Chelsea were coming off 5 wins in a row, something like that. I know. I don't know what they're going to say next. Maybe that we must be quite good.
Yeah, we're getting Liverpool at the right time as well. That's a one that I've seen, which we probably are, but still, you have to
the right time. They're going to have to win. They're at home. They're going to have to win. So they'll be on fire, surely.
Yeah. Right. We're bordering into propaganda there, and we've got a very juicy episode of propaganda coming up after this one comes out. So let's just talk about Sunderland beating Bournemouth. How did we do it? Because there's a tactical novice like myself compared to a tactical, I don't want to say you're a genius, but a tactical observer. I'll call you a tactical observer, right? A tactical observer like you. For me, a shift to a back 4 just seemed to make us more open going forward and more open defensively. It was a very entertaining game, which I think came from the fact that Bournemouth are pretty, I would say they're very, I actually described it as watching the game live. They have a Champions League level midfield and attack and a very championship defence. That's what it felt like to me. I thought they were really quite poor at the back. But I also thought us going to 4 at the back, it gave us another man going forward. I thought we looked dangerous in the game. I know that the underlying data doesn't necessarily say that, but my eyes were telling me that Sunderland looked dangerous within the game. So yeah, was it as simple as a shift to a back 4, having an extra body further forward, therefore we're more creative, or is that too simplistic?
No, I think there's a lot of truth in that. And I thought the best thing that you said was about the shape of Bournemouth's team if you take them into defence, midfield, and attack. I thought they are really good, and they are a frightening team going forward. I think people, thought, well, they're a bit better than Fulham. They're not just a bit better than Fulham; they're an awful lot better than Fulham. Do you want to? I've got a Hans creation picture there, which I've forgotten.
Typo.
This shows you where they are, and they are creating chances and shots up amongst, or chances that lead to shots as well. Behind Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, all that sort of stuff, and Sunderland are in a very different position, and I think. I've got the untitled one there, which shows you where we are in case people can't spot us. We're all the way down there. So every metric that you look at about expected goals and touches in the opposition box and final third entries, that's the difference between Sunderland and Bournemouth. And I know people worry about our statistics and our metrics behind all this, and maybe it will start to catch up with this, maybe, but not yet. We are quite clinical. But the gap between sort of fearsome attack in any way that you look at it is exactly like this in almost all of the ways that you look at it between Bournemouth and Sunderland. So they are terrifying going forward. And I think that we did a really good job in defending against them yesterday. If you think back to the game, I know it was end-to-end stuff. It was like some sort of colossal last round title fight or something. It was great to watch for the neutral, but pulsating and worrying for us. But even when we went 2 down, I still thought we can get into this game. We had to score next. But I just thought they were fragile at the back. And I think their midfield and their attack, stunning, outstanding stuff. But at the back, they were vulnerable. And interestingly, they had 2 players in their back line who we were trying to buy in the summer. Petrovic in goal, who really should have done better for Traore's. It's not a very strong shot and near post, and he gets nothing to it. And it's very kind of him to watch Bromley, like all of us, but for his third. But and Baffodo Diakite at the back line, who I actually thought was a good player, but just seemed pretty anonymous for most of yesterday. So there, but for the grace of God, go we, I think. And I want to have a look at just this. Go on.
Just before we skip, I want to talk about this because I think Sunderland being second bottom on this graph here, do you think that is a lot to do with how we play? Because I think that one of the issues I have with XG is that if Lionel Messi has a shot and me has a shot from the same place, that's the same expected goals, isn't it? So it doesn't take into account things like that. So if you've got, for example, physical, strong players, we score a lot of goals from set pieces, and XG from set pieces is measured in the same way, because it doesn't matter if me and you are playing at the park and crossing the ball in the box. That is the same XG as if Lefay is crossing it on a Brian Brobby's head. Mm-hmm. Do you think that is one of the reasons why? Because we are a team that very clearly plays towards physicality, long throws in the box, corner, things that the football is generally trending towards. We are very, very good at. And I wonder if the XG model hasn't caught up with that, because in reality, if you looked at our set pieces and actually watch them with your eyes and not necessarily just with dots, you would say that the XG for a lot of what we do is higher. And I just wonder if this is why our metrics for things like this are so low, because it isn't taking into account what we are as a team, what our strengths are. And one thing I have noticed, and I don't know if this is true, Sunderland don't take long range shots.
No, we don't take very many long range shots. That means we get sort of fewer of them. So, when you look at things like this for chance creation, we might be getting fewer shots. You would hope that some of those were greater quality, but then they should be further along the XG line if we're closer to the box, in the box. But we don't get into the box as often as other teams either. So we get fewer chances that are fewer, cleaner chances. We're just better and more clinical at putting them away. Not in an outrageous fashion either. I mean, you see this chance creation for Bournemouth. they're quite poor at putting some of their stuff away in comparison. So I mean, it when you look at things like this on its own, it doesn't tell the whole story. You have to think about what's their chance conversion, where are their shots coming from, and when you start to add those things in, it becomes more complicated to discern. But Bournemouth have way more shots than us, but the quality of those shots are on average lower. Now that means they might get more better shots out of the volume. But it becomes awkward when you do that. So I don't think it's as clean cut as just saying they're better than we are because they're up there and we're down the bottom. However, I don't think you can go the whole season sort of, being down here on this and other metrics and it not have an impact on you. I think it will start to catch up with you. The other thing to think about is if you put the ball, if you take a long shot, there's going to be likely, either well, not likely, but the more shots you take, the more likely there are going to be rebounds or bobbles or hitting somebody, and you'll get another. And so you can get more XG from putting it in the mixer than you can from trying to get a clean take. So there are things like that to consider. And we scored again from a set piece, like you mentioned. So I don't know about how they measure it, but that was another goal for us from a set piece. And Bromley did really well. So I, maybe there's something in that set piece, Lark. But lots of other teams are following it. I just thought that we defended really well. I know you people don't like these sorts of charts, but I think even without these charts, you could say that Bournemouth are a considerably more dangerous attacking opponent than we've faced at home, perhaps prior today. Well, Arsenal, obviously, but they're really strong at home. And I think you'd have to concede that they're probably a stronger attacking outfit on the whole than we are. They're just not nearly as good defensively.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I think Bournemouth are well on this chart. They're 1, 2, 3. The sixth in the Premier League on this chart for total shots. So yeah, I think they're a very very good team, and I think they're going to be top 6 or 7 come the end of the season. So that's why I was so impressed that we won the game. Right, what did you want me to put up next before
I want the Sunderland pass network. I want to connect that to compare that to Bournemouth. So those are my next two. Okay. And I don't know if people watched the Fulham review last week, but we had real trouble with Traore on the right-hand side, 25. Him and Hume and Mukiele were just separated from the rest of our team, but not so today. And I think Lefay is really crucial to that. He had an outstanding game. Everybody said it. But I think the reason Traore has a good game is because Lefay has a great game. And I think that him and Traore, you can see they get more ball after Xhaka and possibly Bella, but that doesn't count because the ball gets played out to him. So he gets a freebie all the time. But after Xhaka, where all our play goes to, Lefay and Traore just linked up really, really well. And I think that shows it in comparison to last week, if you tuned in last week. And that was the difference in our attack today. And I remember the discussion that we had about saying, look, I get 5 at the back, and I still think it's something that we'll play. We may well play it against Liverpool because they are quite frightening going up, but we'll talk about that later. But what I was advocating was when we're going forward, and I think you agreed, when we're going forward in possession, Hume folding into the midfield, he's not a proper midfielder. And if you're going to do that, why not play a proper midfielder there who can see the game around him, who can link up better? And I felt like that might have been the problem. And when you looked at the contributions on both sides, you could see that Hume then would flee back into defence, and we left a massive gap that they came into. Well, I think Lefay is a very different player. And I think we talked about this, and I wasn't sure about putting Lefay on the right, but you were. And what a tactical masterclass you did there, Mr. Bromley. So, well done, yeah. But it's just really, really good. And it solved the problem that we were talking about with when you retreat into defence and when you fold Hume into the midfield, you have somebody there in Lefay whose vision in the game is fantastic, who can link up, who can play those sneaky balls, and who is tenacious in defence. I worried about him being on the right because we hadn't seen him there. There were a couple of times in the past when he's been in the midfield. He does have a tendency for a loose ball. I think you have to accept that when you've got someone playing creative passes. And you wonder about his physicality in the Premier League sometimes. I know he's tenacious, but he was brilliant yesterday in all of that. And I think it really shored up our midfield. And I think he can help us defensively. He robbed loads of ball in the midfield. I think he has... I think after the defenders who do most of the tackling and heading, so they are up there on the statistics for defensive contributions. Him and Xhaka are the next best defensive units on the pitch, and Xhaka is obviously really, really good at breaking up attacks. He is a defensive midfielder. Lefay is not naturally a defensive midfielder, so for him to be equaling Xhaka's defensive contributions in tackles, clearances, interceptions, just shows how well he played. And going forward, he's great. Linked up really well. And I think Lefay is the reason that Traore plays so well. And that attack on the right, we attacked 40% down the right-hand side yesterday, 40, maybe more. And it was really, really dangerous. The week before, we had almost nothing coming down that side, and it was very weak. And Traore's had a lot of stick lately. And you have to wonder if the reason he's had some stick is because Hume's been playing behind him and he's not that sort of creative, visionary force that can take advantage of a winger. So maybe that is the answer to Traore's poor form recently. But either way, the pair of them, I think, really defined the game in attack for us. And Lefay made lots of defensive contributions. He also helped double mark Semenyo in attack. And I'm sure I've got somewhere some examples. In fact, I do have. Don't press that. I'll accidentally exit myself from the stream.
just as you're uploading them, I thought it was really interesting that he brought Trey Hume on to basically play right wing. And while obviously that is not, I'm not saying you need to start Trey Hume right wing, and I don't think it's a long-term solution. Actually, in this game, rather than just going straight to a back five, it actually was far better to have the back four with Trey Hume on the right midfield, because it meant that he didn't feel obliged to tuck into the middle. And I think this is the issue that we've had with Hume doing this right wing back role. It's the fact that he's having to constantly play two positions all the time, and I don't think it really works that well. Whereas when he was just on the right of midfield, he just played on the right of midfield, and he was helping defend with Semenyo when he came on. Then obviously we shifted to the back five, and he played as a right back. He didn't play as a right back who was inverting into midfield at that point. But I thought that was really interesting, and I wonder if that's going to be, when we play against Man City or Liverpool, and they've obviously got threats. I mean, Mo Salah plays on the left. Maybe an answer is to potentially, if we're trying to hold on to a one-goal lead or something, if that's going to be an answer going forward, to not change the shape but actually put a defender on the right of midfield to shore up that that defence.
Let me ask you about that. How did you feel about the fact that once we score the third, we immediately start to sit deep? Because it made for an anxious end to the game with lots of Bournemouth possession and lots of Bournemouth attack. And then we bring on Traore for a sixth defender. How did it make you feel when we went into that back five and then back six, trying to be defensive and defend that lead? Were you nervous?
No, well, I was nervous because you always are, but I felt like it was the right thing to do. It's what I would have done in his position. But I think one of the positive things we've seen with the change to the back five is that now we look like a team that can really play it. And that means that when we change to it at the end of the game, we look comfortable doing it. And I remember when we were in League One, I think Lee Johnson had this thing where he kept, for the last 10 minutes, putting on an extra defender and going to a back five. I know this is totally different levels, but just as like a comparison, we felt like we didn't know what we were doing when we went to a back five. And it was really frustrating as a fan because we're playing well, we're winning by a goal, but he goes to a back five and then they don't know who they're marking in the box. Whereas when we do it now, obviously we've got far better players, but because we've been playing the system, everyone knows what they're doing there. So I think that I would expect and would hope, I would hope that Sunderland, if they were winning a game by a goal on 80-ish minutes, would switch to the back five, because I think we're very good at defending like that. So I think it was the right decision.
I think you make a really good point in that when people talk about liking or not liking the back five, they often look at it the whole game. And the reason not to like it last week in the rain at Fulham was because we lost all attacking impetus. And the problem I have with Hume folding into the midfield is he's not a creative midfielder. He's used to seeing the game in front of him and being positionally aware in that sense. And when you have to find space moving forward with the ball and you're a fullback, that, you know, in the middle of the pitch, that's a very different kind of skill set and practice. And, you know, he can sometimes be okay at it, but he's not nearly Lefay at it. So I think it makes a real difference. And that's my problem with it when you're playing a team and you want to attack. But once you've got that third goal, if you put 5 at the back and the job is simply to defend the lead and you're worried far less about being creative in midfield, then it isn't a problem. It's not the same question anymore. So I think that 5 at the back, you're right. We're really solid at it. And against Fulham, we conceded 1 goal with 5 at the back, and it was an unfortunate miscommunication between Ballard and Roos. And if that doesn't happen, maybe that game ends 0-0. Probably shouldn't do, but the fact is that we're really very solid with 5 at the back. So yeah, I agree with you. You know, having 5 at the back is not the same question in the same situation in the game. And once we're the goal ahead, you've got to feel secure if that's what we do. And Bournemouth didn't look like actually having any real chance. They were, at that stage, they were reduced to having long shots, passing around our defensive set with 5 at the back. And you remember Xhaka and Siddiqui sit right on that D in zone 14, meaning there's nothing to get through. And they're a big crossing side as well. But we were pretty solid. They have a couple of long shots. I know that Tavernier, you know, smashes the crossbar, but you can't make plans for shots like that. I mean, they very rarely go in, but you'll get caught by one on occasion. But there's nothing you can do about things like that. Yeah. If that had gone in, that would have been a fantastic goal. Thankfully, it didn't. So yeah, I agree. 5 at the back defensively. Once we're in the lead, it worked really well, and Hume is prepared to stick his neck out there and be in that position to play. When he came on, I thought he handled Semenyo pretty well. Didn't he do one crunching tackle on him to get everybody roused? He got
booked within about 10 seconds of coming on.
I saw that. I was wondering, was that pull back on the halfway? Was that necessary, or was it just an accident?
Yeah, I thought he needed to do it. I thought he needed to
yeah.
I felt it was the correct decision for him to obliterate the poor guy's ankle.
Yeah. Have a look, please, there at the Lefay heat map. As Lefay brings the heat. And he is all over the pitch. This is pretty big for an individual heat map for one player. But he's up and down all over the place. And part of the reason he's in the top left is because he takes the corners from the left. So he has to interact with play coming back across. So that's part of that reason. But he's just involved an awful lot. And then if you look at Semenyo's heat map, who I think many people would say is a better, more dangerous player, he has vastly less impact on the game than Lefay. And I think that is a real, you know, really demonstrates, if you flick between those two, that Lefay there and then Semenyo on the other one, far less impact. And we all know how great Semenyo is. So that's a real credit to Lefay's productivity, but also his assisting in defence. And Mukiele, trying to marshal him and Hume later on. The fact that we hear so little about Semenyo in that game, I mean, maybe he wasn't fully fit because he missed last week with a long-term ankle injury. So that's a possible excuse for him. But we pretty much nullified him. And I think defensively we were relatively solid. If you think about the game, the 2 goals that they score are, the second one is a worldie, and the first one is just another stupid set-piece corner mistake where we're raced away at, which just is happening too often for us in the last 6 months, frankly. I don't know. I wish we'd stop doing that. But yeah, those goals are against the run of play. After that, they don't get that many shots in the box. Evan Nielsen
got that one that was offside, but I thought Semenyo. Yeah, I actually watched a Bournemouth fan reaction, and they said that he didn't play particularly well, but I thought he was the best player on the pitch in terms of when he had the ball. He was unbelievable. He should have. I think Evan Nielsen probably prods it in when it was possibly going in anyway.
I've had a look. it isn't going in. It's missing by about that much. On the, so he's offside when it's played. I'm not really sure about the rule. He's offside when it plays, and then it hits Alderete. And Evan Nielsen remains offside, but he can't be offside at that point. But he is offside when it's played, and it comes off Alderete. It's going wide, and he prods it in. But he can only be in that position because he began the move offside. But I don't know what impact Alderete's touch in the middle makes. He's offside at that point.
Think no. So the rule is if it's an obvious attempt to play the ball. So for example, if Alderete looked to pass it,
yeah,
then he would have been fine. But because Alderete is basically it's coming through him and he's defending it, but he's not necessarily trying to play the ball. He's just trying
doesn't count as a touch.
It. Yeah, it doesn't count as him the next phase of play because the ball's getting passed to Evan Nielsen.
Who he is offside and it is going wide.
Yeah. So if, for example, the pass was going to somebody else at first and Alderete deflects it to another player who was offside, but it wasn't going there, then I think the goal probably would have counted, I believe is what the rule is. So, yeah.
Well, they were all complaining about Evan Nielsen in the Bournemouth forums because they say, bloody useless. We've got a player who thrives on tap-ins, and then he makes a tap-in that's offside. Yeah. But I thought he was really good. There were times when, when he had the ball, he was, pirouetting and turning out of trouble. I thought he was one of their better players. Him and Semenyo, you take them out the side, and I thought they were much a lesser side. I don't know who they've got missing. Doak, and I don't know who else they've got missing.
Ryan Christie.
But I wouldn't have thought they were better answers. But yeah, Semenyo, terrific player. When he gets the ball, power and drive, and he just takes half a yard, and he's got such pace off the mark. He takes half a yard on his right, and he can fire a shot in, half a yard on his left, and he can fire the cross in, and both are equally dangerous. So I thought we did really well to keep him quiet. But that comparison with Lefay just shows you the impact of Enzo Lefay there. We hadn't really seen him in a central right position, but I thought it was brilliant from him. And, I mean, surely he starts there against Liverpool, you would think.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, obviously we're going to do a Liverpool preview, so we won't talk too much about that now. But, yeah, I do think that I'm really, really excited to see Lefay potentially get a run here. Obviously, with AFCON coming up as well.
Yeah.
He's probably going to play a lot of games going forward, and I am looking forward to seeing him actually play the position, basically, that we wanted him to play when we signed him. And I think seeing him centrally, the first goal that we scored, it's his tackle that I think he tells Semenyo to sort of start that that move, and I think they pointed out a match of the day as well. But he's involved in all the goals.
Mm-hmm.
It
helps being the penalty taker.
I meant more that he was involved in like the move to set the penalty. Not the penalty was a very good penalty though. It must be said.
A fantastic penalty. Yeah. You've got to have confidence because you got to score that to be in the game. You don't score that, I think you start the second half. It's really hard. Then you go in half time 1 goal down, and you just feel, oh, great, we've got a great chance here. So the pressure there is huge, I think.
Yeah,
and they delayed so long, didn't they? Arguing with the referee.
How long was the VAR? It must have been 3 or 4 minutes it took them to get the decision.
Yeah, it was such an easy decision to make as well.
Were they looking at the foul in the build-up? Is that what it was? That's what Iraola was whinging about.
He got booked, didn't he? He was tremendous. He was like some sort of jack-in-the-box on cocaine or something or other. He was all over the place, arguing about every single thing going on. And I thought if they had red cards and indiscipline on the pitch, it doesn't help that their manager is, screaming like that on the sideline. I think it doesn't encourage them to be tight and disciplined. I don't know how much players ignore what's going on.
I get it, though, because from Bournemouth's perspective, to be 2-0 up away from home against Sunderland after, 30 minutes, to chuck it away, in their head, obviously, chuck it away. We can talk about Sunderland doing things right, but in their head, they've chucked that game away. I can understand the ill-discipline. I mean, the red card at the end was, frankly, that was embarrassing, what he's done there. That is just assault on the pitch.
He's only on the pitch because Alex Scott had been run ragged and was
Yeah.
about to be sent off. Alex Scott is hooked at half time because he arguably shouldn't have been on the pitch.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's some irony in the fact that the person who substitutes Lewis Cook gets red carded anyway. Sorry, the person who substitutes Alex Scott gets red carded anyway. So, yeah, I would feel bothered by them. But if you think about it rationally, they had 2 breakaway goals.
Yeah.
And to score from both of them is lucky, I think. So after that, they don't really create very much. They create the offside goal, Tavernier's shot, which would have to be a worldie to go in. And you think about beyond that, do they really deserve to have 2 or more goals? I don't think so. Our goals were all created, in pretty regular situations, properly. I mean, not that there's an improper way, but it's not like we got lucky on the break for anything. Traore's goal is exceptionally well worked. Our set piece is, set piece, everybody is there to defend and they don't. And then the penalty is in, sort of the result of a foul in open play. So I think our goals are the product of constant pressure and play, whereas I didn't feel like Bournemouth were. So if they feel aggrieved, I think a step back and a week looking at that and you think, well, we had 2 lucky goals. They didn't. They had 3 well-worked goals. So how much can they really complain about that? They will do, because their goalkeeper, £25 million, is he? Could have been our £25 million, because we tried to buy him and failed. And he concedes cheap goals. One at the near post to Traore from a relatively soft shot. His only excuse might be it goes through the defender's legs. And then the other one is... he doesn't even move. Brobby's header is so fast that it made the goalkeeper look like he was stood still. It's the only thing you could possibly try to say. But yeah, they don't deserve. I don't think they deserve to complain as much as they might.
Do you think that this is our best win of the season due to the circumstance? Because I think obviously Chelsea are better. I mean, I presume Chelsea would be the number 1 or number 2 win, but Chelsea are obviously a better team than Bournemouth. But I think to be 2-0 down against Bournemouth after 13 minutes and turn it around, win 3-2. First time we've done it since ever in the Premier League, but it doesn't happen.
We've never
very
done
often,
it.
but,
Yeah, never done it in the Premier League. And there was a certain poetic nicety to the fact that Bournemouth were the team we lost to who sent us down in 2017. So that was kind of nice, which shows the difference between the team we were then and the team we are now. I mean, if you come back from 2 goals down anytime, it's a tremendously resilient performance. But to do it against a team like Bournemouth, who are no mugs, who are really strong going forward, you keep one of the best Premier League wingers pretty silent. And the goals you concede are breakaways. It's not like we played poorly to concede those. They're breakaways. We should do better on things like the short corner and stuff. I think it was a really good performance by us. And when you consider those things, you probably think, well, actually, maybe we were the better side. The statistics all sort of favour Bournemouth, but only just. It's a pretty even game in almost every regard. The difference is we score our goals through good team play, getting up the pitch quite regularly, and there's the 2 breakaways. Aside from that, I think the game is ours. So I was really pleased. My favourite still Chelsea, because of the last seconds drama, and everyone's going shoot, turn and shoot, and then he lays it off. It's just much more dramatic, isn't it? Brobby scored a pretty straightforward winner, and there's still 20 minutes to go. Like an hour to go at that stage. We played 48 in the first half, and we played 111, so that's another 45.
It was about 18 or 19 minutes. I don't know.
Extra time. Yeah, that's a huge game. And we've got to go to Liverpool on Wednesday and travel. I mean, I don't know what the plan will be, but there's not much time to have a different plan, is there?
No. With the travel on the day, I mean, they're basically playing at midnight, 8:15 kickoffs. Absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what the plan is. Anyway, before we go, we need an answer to the best opposition goal scored at the Stadium of Light. So,
it's really hard because you tend to forget the really great goals against you. You remember the amazing ones for you, but you know, so I can remember Phillips's volley against Chelsea, which is staggeringly good, but I couldn't remember the goals against us that season, although there were loads. I do remember I was there for James Beattie's shot, and I remember my response to that. I was just like, you know, because I felt I just thought,
Yeah.
how do we let a goal in from that far out? So I don't. The other thing is, I don't think that, and that was my response. I was annoyed. I didn't recognise at the time that this is an absolutely staggering worldie. I just thought, well, that's pathetic. How can you let it in from that far? It was sort of that height. I can't really. Yeah. So it's really hard to judge them because I look at goals from the opposition and I think, well, that's us being poor, not them being worldy. Loser's goal was pretty good, but I think
that's the one that sticks out in my head.
Yeah, I think Ryan Harding scored a good goal from the halfway line. He got the ball on the halfway line and ran through us.
Did somebody from maybe Norwich score a halfway line goal against us a couple of years ago?
I don't remember. Some dark days back then.
Yeah,
Conceding all sorts of cheapness.
Yeah.
Can I say, just because I like to mention him, can I say that one of the best away goals was we're not allowed own goals, are we? So I can't say any of those. No. I don't know. I can't think past that Beattie goal that you mentioned, but the problem is you tend to erase them and you don't want to give them the credit that everybody else does.
Also, in your head, sometimes I do this, and in my head, a goal is better than what it actually is. So, for example...
well, our goals are always better.
But you know, like sometimes they're from further out. So, like in 5 years' time, that Tyler Adams goal yesterday, in my head, will probably be from inside his own half. You know, and it'll fly to the top corner. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there's an argument to say that Tyler Adams goal is possibly the best one.
I think it is. It's hard to think of somebody else who scored from that far out. I'd hope that I remembered if they had.
I'm thinking we're going to get some very interesting comments, is what I'd say. So I'm looking forward to seeing what people select in the comments section.
Got to be some great goals out there that I have deliberately erased.
Yeah, probably. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. That's our Bournemouth review. We're going to have propaganda coming up, and then we'll have a Liverpool preview. It's going to be jam-packed in, and then we'll be back at the end of the week to talk about Man City. Hopefully when we have potentially a suspended Noah Siddiqui and Granit Xhaka. Otherwise, I'm going to be watching that Man City game next weekend with like this.
You can't play them in that case. If they don't get booked, you can't play them. But how much will the referee know that and just say, no, I'm not booking you? You're going to have to be really, really bad to get booked. I know your game.
Yeah, could be that. Yeah, they're going to have to take their shirts off, I think, at the end of the game. Like, just on 94 minutes when we're winning. Just get their kit off.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, we'll see you all soon. Thanks for watching.